So I'm Mrs. Hebert and we're doing the three-dimensional challenge. You, together with your group, have to include all of these three-dimensional forms in a sculpture, and it has to be something. So you'll have to fold quickly and decide with your group what you want to make. You get a base, you get clear tape, and then you get paper. The color could be a factor in what you decide to create. If you don't already know, when you look at these instructions, you can see that a lot of them start with a square piece of paper, and much of my paper is rectangular. So you're going to get 2 class periods to do this. Usually we focus on craftsmanship, but don't worry so much about that this time. Just worry about seeing if you can learn how to fold these forms, because it's great to be able to make your own things, and especially like a cylinder. A cylinder is probably the easiest one to make. You just roll up a piece of paper, big or small. You can do any of these, and I usually just take the scraps of paper out of my paper cutter recycling. So here we have a big cylinder and here we have a small cylinder. And in both these cases, you can decide if it makes sense to put your tape we got something on the tape thing. To put your tape going the long way, that'll make it stand up better. Okay, so we have a cylinder, and then most of these are starting with a square form of a square piece of paper. So if you don't remember, and this is great anytime you want to do origami, you might not have origami paper, you can line up the edges if you fold a piece of paper like this. The more carefully you line up, the better. And take a pair of scissors. Scissors, please. If I slice off this edge, then I know that I have a square. Okay? So the pyramid is pretty easy. And on my instructional sheet, which I'll give you, you have 3 things. The dotted line is fold, a straight line is cut, and then roll is this loop-de-loo, which would be the same kind of instructions you'd see in the origami studio. So I'm going to fold again according to my instructions here. I'm actually going to just turn this right around so it's easier for you guys to see. So when I open this up, you don't need to draw on it, but I'm going to use a Sharpie so that it's really clear. I have my dotted lines here would be the folds, in case you can't see them in the video. I have folds here. And then here, just like my diagram, I'm going to cut. So you guys are really going to have to make connections and collaborate and work together to come up with your idea. So once I cut that, I can make a pyramid really easily. And again, just a piece of clear tape or a couple pieces. Now I have my pyramid shape. So if I started with a smaller piece of paper, I would have a smaller pyramid. And you might want to repeat anytime you have colors and shapes repeating. We talked about in the collage studio, it helps to make your work look unified. So the cube is, for my kids so far, has been the trickiest one to make. Is everybody paying attention? Because you need to be able to fold all of these. Your team's not going to be very happy if they say, quick, fold a cube, and you don't know what to do. So, do you guys remember March Mail?
Yeah.
How to fold a letter? You're going to have to kind of roll the paper up and smush it flat. First in one direction, but then you do the same thing. Come closer. If it's hard for you to see, just come on closer. And then you're going to go in the other direction.
Then you
Everybody come closer. Okay? So, again, I'm going to use a Sharpie, but you don't have to do this. So I have all my folds so that it looks just like this. I have all my folds, and I'm going to cut. All I have to do is cut here. I line up my scissors where the end is going to be, so I just have to, makes it faster for cutting. You know, instead of cutting like this and having to stop at the right moment. I line up my scissors with the end of my cut and then just go. All right, again, you're folding, you're taping, and I can't wait to see what you guys are gonna do with all your different forms. Okay, looks like I need another little piece of tape there, but for the sake of time, I'm moving on. Now, the cone, I have to fold this way, and then I think it's easier if I fold on the diagonal as well. So that I'm gonna have to draw sort of this Pac-Man shape. Do you guys know about Pac-Man? Miss
Yeah.
Pac-Man?
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid in the 80s, it was a very popular game, and still today.
Kinda,
Oh,
yeah, they've made a lot
Atari.
and a lot more mobile versions too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's on the phones and the iPads and stuff like that.
All right. So I have my dotted lines, right? So I folded here, here, triangularly, rectangularly. But in order to be able to, that was pretty easy for me because I've had a lot of practice with this, to make a curve. It helps to think, okay, I have these points and I'm gonna just make a curve between them. I have my points here and here, and I'm gonna make a curve between them because that can be a little bit of a tricky shape to get. Now, this looks like Pac-Man, right? Mrs. Pac-Man. And this one little corner right there is the only part that you need to, well, the only quadrant that you cut out, okay? And then you cut along those lines for a Pac-Man. Now, you can make your cone really tight or really loose depending on the shape, I should say the form that you want. So when you start working in 3 dimensions, we talk about forms and how they work in space, and that's it. That's the cone. Cylinder, roll up anything, and that's what you get, okay? You can have a little tiny cylinder. And then the last one is a rectangular prism. So you take a piece of paper and you fold it
Cut into fourths.
You fold it into fourths. So on this diagram, it's pretty easy to fold into fourths, right? If you fold it in half and then you just fold again. But since I made this, somebody said, you know, Mrs. Hebert, and I'll show you why, if you fold it into fifths, it could be another choice. So then I just want to have almost a square at the ends. I'll draw it in for you guys. So this width, whatever it is, I want to have about the same. Whatever this end width is, about the same distance. Like how far in do you cut?
Maybe you could use a ruler to kind of make it straight.
You could, but you guys only have 2 class periods, and then I want to say at the very end of class tomorrow, your sculptures have to be finished. They have to include all 5 of these forms at least. They have to look like something, like you want us to be able to guess. One way that you can guess, like these guys gave you're going to put all your group name on there. They gave a title, The Game of Life. This was a board game to them. And we're going to vote we're going to go around and look at all in the last couple minutes of class, and the winning group gets a prize. A food prize, a candy prize.
Yeah, that's fun.
So that sweetens the deal. So I'm gonna cut this. Yes, sorry, couldn't resist the pun. So I'm
Puns
gonna
are
cut
good.
this, and these little tabs on the end. You know what? I want you to fold that way. So I'm gonna just crease backwards on that. So these tabs come together and can be folded down, or they could be left open. You don't, it depends on what you're doing. But if you had folded this into 5 equal columns, then you have one more piece that folds over, okay? So I don't want to take up too much more of your time at this moment, but those are the 5 forms. They all have to be included. Do you have any questions right now? I'll answer them before we start, but put your names on the oak tag base and start folding.